The Roth Show, brought to you by Ink the Original.
Face-to-face confrontations are part of the DNA, part of the symmetry here. So is Playboy magazine. So is High Society. So is Esquire. So is Baywatch. Do you follow where I'm going here? Okay, you want to go with me?
Sure.
Okay, now if there's any sensitive issues or sore spots or anything that may impact a personal relationship outside of what we're doing here as professionals, I'm going to fucking focus on for entertainment value. Tom, I would never ask you to talk about, speak in accordance of, or involve yourself mentally, spiritually, or physically in anything damaging or permanently damaging and dangerous unless I thought it'd be wildly entertaining. Let's get started. I grew up in the time when you had to have a magazine, or Uncle Saul told you about a stack of magazines, or you discovered Uncle Saul's stack of magazines in the proverbial, not so proverbial basement of the house up on Rockland Boulevard in Lynn, Massachusetts, Swampscott. I'm just making this up. Most of it, allegedly. We all have that experience, and you had to go with a flashlight to discover what women looked like naked. Oh my God. This was a time when every magazine stand had a section. You know, the Bungalow News here in Pasadena had everything in terms of magazines, sports, trucking, guns have always been outdoor. And then they got progressively more Men's World, Argosy. And then it became almost pulp, captured and tortured by Castro's all-lesbian sex team. Sounds like a weekend to me. Do you speak Spanish? We'll learn. Let's get captured. And this, True Tales, Saga, Argosy, these were all available on the regular magazine stands, especially up at the Rexall Drug on New York and Allen. I was a kid. Before I was a teenager, all right? And in those days, we were allowed to wander free, way more free, probably way more free. If I had a kid, especially a daughter, no way would they be walking unattended or, unobserved, supervised by somebody as far as I did as a kid. In third grade, second grade, and I was joking around with my sister. In second grade, we were walking almost 2 miles to school unattended. That was in Swampscott, Massachusetts, down by the beach in third grade. Subsequent to that, Brookline, Massachusetts, same thing. Walking almost a mile or so to school unattended, and that was in all weather. So I learned to love the weather. It was something to happen when you really weren't going anywhere you wanted to go, as in school. You're going to school, at least it's raining. And now there's a little something extra for the next 14 blocks. And this was through, now it's student housing, as I understand it. And then, no, wait, it was student housing. Now it's gentrified. Now Alton Court in Brookline, Massachusetts, I understand, is très expensive. So am I. You can tell from the jewelry. Stay focused. We're talking about boxing. Wandering around in those neighborhoods, unsupervised, you always had a Rexall or a Dwayne Reed or a Thrifty Drug or the Approximation. And every one of those had a magazine stand that you could read the magazines right there, especially if your parents or your mom was shopping at the time. You were always deposited at the magazine section. Whether that was at the Ralph's grocery store, whether that was at the Vons grocery store. And they also had records for sale when Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band came out. That was right next to the magazines up at the Ralph's on Lake Street next to Elliott Junior High. And you would get deposited there, and I would pray she would take forever. I had a very different childhood. And if you went to the Bungalow News or Vroman's, not so much Vroman's, but Bungalow News, they had a section that became True Men's Tales and Weasels Ripped My Flesh, Tortured by, well, you remember Castro. That was a vacation. That was a summer. That was a good summer. Orale. My shoulder still hurts. Anyway, is you would now move down into the nudie section. And as a kid, kind of move like this a little bit, like that. Steal a little look. And that's how you became aware of what women look like naked, especially when they were playing to guys. Okay, that looked like spring break to you. This looks like True Men's Tales to me. New Orleans Mardi Gras, out of control. Okay, Art Man does spring break. Show us your medals. Okay, that's familiar back then. That was something special. So, was that pornography? I don't know. Let's go back to boxing. Dave, boxing is something that people have to do. Yes, people want to grow up and become a heavyweight champion, but the first time you take a real punch to the head, first time you wake up with that headache, you're going to revisit your career path. So who takes up boxing? Those who have to. Those who must. Those who are compelled to it by virtue of an unfortunate inheritance in terms of economy, in terms of jobs, in terms of growing up in unfortunate backgrounds and shitty neighborhoods and no backgrounds and one parent, no parent families, state issue folks out of the system, folks who've been incarcerated, folks who are gonna be incarcerated. It's all true, all true. But we love boxing. And we still pay. I think it's the most expensively well-paid sport in the history of, is it not? Is not the heavyweight champion of the free world still the highest paid athlete going out there? Do you know?
I
one
don't
way
know,
or another?
I don't know exactly. I know that Floyd Mayweather is one of the most winningest in terms of money-wise athletes out there ever.
Okay, well, you're Midwest Ohio Eagle Scout, like boxing. Pop was a strong guy, okay? Was not a vegetarian, right?
Not at all.
Okay. I forgot to ask before we hired him. Anyway, I went on an assumption. It's my form of racism. You're the perfect guy to ask about boxing, because boxing is aimed at us. I grew up down the street in Indiana halfway or a third. Come on. And all of those values have remained forever. Love the ultimate fighting. You say, but Dave, I don't say it, but some might counter to me today. Millennial, pivotal, okay, may position and say, but Dave, mixed martial arts, boxing, kickboxing, this kind of pursuit is really damaging. It's physically damaging, it's mentally damaging, it's psychologically damaging. The individuals who are called to this are compelled, perhaps, because frequently they're already damaged, and this is going to add to the overall composite. It's going to add up to future medical woes that are going to impact the state. Who can afford to take care of themselves? Most boxers, none. All right, so now they impact the state with, you can barely pronounce your own name, you can't remember your own home address, you're only 38 years old, you're starting to get lower back pain, and all of that. They say to me, Dave, what do you think of that? And I think, well, isn't it the same for the girls in pornography? Let's box.
The Roth Show, brought to you by Ink, the Original.